Courtside with Virtual Hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, episode number 424. Andrew with you as always. I'm joined as always by Derek, aka D3.
Happy to be here. You know who my favorite commentator right now is in basketball video games?
Reggie Theus?
How did you guess that?
See, I was being sarcastic, but Reggie Theus, Live 2000, yeah.
Wait a minute. See, that's crazy because I did not tell Andrew who I was going to say before we started recording the show. It's Reggie Theus. And do you know why?
Why's that?
So on NBA Live 2000, Reggie Theus is the color commentator. But all he does is give you the most basic lines, and they're almost always related to stats. And it's all we need. Like, my brother and I are playing Legends, like you've heard us talk about many times. So, like we have Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Jordan and Magic and all of that stuff, and then a Legends bench. And we're just taking on the regular teams on the hardest level, and we're having a good time with it. But Reggie Theus doesn't have any long drawn-out lines and long drawn-out sentences or anything like that. He's just like, Larry Bird has a double-double. Wilt Chamberlain has 14 rebounds. And he just gives us only the information we want, only the information we need, and he delivers it so calm. Reggie Theus is excellent in NBA Live 2000.
See, it's funny because if you go back to Lutz, one of our founder, his review of Live 2000, he's talking about how Reggie Theus had a plane to catch when he was recording his lines because there's not a lot of detail to them, as you said. And that was kind of looked on as a negative back in the day when we were perhaps hoping for more, because that was the first time we had a color commentator in NBA Live 2000, so we were perhaps expecting a little bit more. But now going back, after some of the color commentators in recent games, Derek, I suppose it's a bit more refreshing to just hear him mention those stats or throwing it down with authority.
Well, he doesn't even say that, really. He does. He will every now and then. It's very rare. It's really just like the most basic stat updates. And I think the reason it works is because we're not taking that game seriously, really, right?
Right.
We're not expecting TV style or TV like sim presentation from the commentary. And really all we care about when we're doing Legends is the base commentary and then stat updates. And he gives us exactly what we want, and he gives you a lot of them. I don't know if you realize that when you play NBA Live 2000, but he is constantly giving stat updates throughout the game. It was like, that's his 8th rebound. That's Jordan's 6th assist.
Yeah.
That's his 3rd steal. And it's just, it's perfect for what we're doing. So, I understand that critique at the time if they wanted it to be more TV-like or lifelike, but for what we're doing, Reggie Theus is it.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it certainly works in that respect. And I will say about the presentation in Live 2000, we talked about the tremendous faces and how it holds up a couple of weeks ago, and obviously you're having a blast with it now, with the PC version being set up. But the presentation, if you go back and watch, say, the 2000 All-Star Game, it looks a lot like the NBA on TNT presentation of the time.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing so many nice little touches with that game. And something else that you mentioned, you noticed that when I shared a highlight with you of a monster dunk by Jordan, which ended up making the top 10 plays of the week, you noticed that I was using the custom teams, right? What an awesome touch to have, the creation of custom teams in NBA Live 2000, be able to color your uniform any color that you want. We made ours blue. And it's so easy to put players on the team, copy them over from either the Legends teams or the regular teams, etc. And, it's easy to name your team and all of that. It's like what they have in NBA 2K 16 and up for 2K, but for NBA Live 2000 with just a little bit less flexibility.
It's very similar to the created team in later to 2000, but now in the past for us now. Create a team in 2K11, 2K12, 2K13, etc. And it's something we've lost in recent years. Yes, obviously we have it for My Team, for Pro-Am, and rebranding teams in MyLEAGUE, but we don't have it as a default roster editing feature. And that's a shame, because that was a lot of fun to make custom teams that way. But as you said, we still had a lot of flexibility back in 1999. when NBA Live 2000 came out, the colouring, the jerseys, the trim, selecting the logos. It's also funny that back in the day we kind of despaired about the logos. A lot of people in our community back in the day despaired about the logos and how they were kind of very specific. You've got a lobster, you've got a ghost. You don't have this kind of generic basketball themed logo, and a lot of us wanted something a bit more generic that we could put to use that was not obviously suggesting a team name, if you will. And then, of course, we lost Create a Team, and we're like, oh, we kind of missed that. But now you go back to this stuff, and you realise, Derek, just how good we had it. And we kind of bitched about some things back in the day that I look back on and think, man, if only we knew.
Yeah, I think it's because there's this natural tendency to just critique everything.
Sure.
And there's also this natural tendency to always be wanting more. Right? Especially when you look at like sim basketball game titles or sim sports titles, you're constantly comparing it to real life, right? Whether it be the commentary or the way the players look, the way the on-court action happens, all of that stuff. So I think that's pretty natural. And, we do that same thing today. We probably overanalyze a little bit at times for the newer NBA Live and NBA 2K titles. But just so the listeners understand why I'm bringing up NBA Live 2000 again is Andrew remoted into my computer and got NBA Live 2000 set up on my Windows 10 PC. And it works amazing. The graphics look great. It's definitely the definitive version, the best version of NBA Live 2000. But I have it on PC, so mods are a possibility. And there's two very important legends that are missing from our Legends team. And do you know who they are?
That would be Yinkadare and Spud Webb.
No, but I will say that in a game tonight against Stildo 33 on our 94-95 season on NBA 2K19, I was using the Kings, and I did dunk it with Spud Webb.
Nice.
So that was nice. Clyde Drexler and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Of course.
Both of them are not in NBA Live 2000. So I searched the web, went on Google, went on the NLSC, looking for NBA Live 2000 mods. Did anybody mod Clyde Drexler and Kareem in the game and whatnot? And I can't find any. So I downloaded the tutorial, the Cyberface tutorial on how to load up the textures in the EA graphics editor and how to import them in the game. And I'm going to have to watch that and see if I can make faces for those guys. And then maybe I can release them on the forums.
That would be really cool to get some Live 2000 mods again. It's been a few years, actually. Well, I say a few. It's probably closer to 5 or 6 now, because for a while there we did have somebody who was very passionately updating the rosters through to probably about the 2016 season, with, I believe, faces, but certainly updated rosters, and possibly a few other art updates as well. I think he might have had a Bobcats update at the time, and putting them in the game. So for one of the seasons. But yeah, that was really cool to see. Love Live 2000, obviously, but yeah, we get some new mods for that. There's a lot we could do with that game still, and I think people would really appreciate that, especially if we do put those resources together, which we do want to do, for getting these old games to run properly on Windows 10.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love seeing when mods are released for those older games. It's unbelievable how much NBA 2K14 for the PC is still being modded, and that title is now technically almost 9 years old, right? So good stuff. I'll have to connect with you on, with me hosting on NBA Live 2000, the PC version at some point, so we can get a few games in. And hell, I could even run a tournament on that game at some point.
Like a playoffs?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Like an actual playoffs, right? Would be cool to get 16 different users involved, but it's tough to schedule that. But it's a possibility.
We've run it before. People are keen. They're loving the tournaments, and that really warms our heart to see.
No, 100%.
But speaking of EA Sports basketball games, Derek, obviously they've been dormant for, 3, almost going on 4 years now?
Yeah, unfortunately. It's let's see, NBA Live 19 came out in the fall of 2018. So, yeah, we're coming up on 4 years.
4 years, and we really do need that competitor in that space, the alternative. And one thing that we've been talking about a lot, and there's been a bit of buzz generated about it, is the possibility of EA coming back, not with NBA Live, but with NCAA March Madness or NCAA Basketball. And there was a tweet back in March, obviously, as March Madness was tipping off, from the official EA account, talking about madness loading and emojis representing a loading bar, as it seemed. And of course, this gets people talking because now you've got an EA account talking about March Madness. And there was a bit of speculation at the time. Okay, they're bringing back college football. Does this mean they're also looking to bring back college basketball? And we obviously think that's a pretty good idea, and that could be a niche that EA could fill, and they wouldn't be directly competing with NBA 2K and avoiding a lot of those comparisons there. But as the playoffs are tipping off, the NBA playoffs now are tipping off, Derek, they also mentioned that on the EA account. And it was pointed out by Amoli in the forum that it's quite likely they're just going for engagement rather than teasing. And that's very true. That's quite feasible and a little bit disappointing.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they know that a tweet like that is going to raise suspicions, raise eyebrows. People are going to, think something of it, even if it's not true. So, yeah, you want to hope that they're doing this stuff to, hint at that, to hint at a possible NBA game release, college basketball game. We're all hoping that some other company out there is working on a 5-on-5 basketball title, right? Whether it be college or NBA or whatnot. So the hope is definitely there. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it will be monumentally disappointing if we go another year or two with no basketball video game release from EA Sports, because they have the money. From my understanding, there's no excuse for them not to have the resources, and they should be able to get enough people to work on that game.
No, 100%. And you're right. And bringing that up as a possible teaser, knowing that would tease people and get people talking, and they're not delivering, it's just going to look even worse for people who are already frustrated with EA Sports and their basketball games, people who are frustrated with 2K, that 2K fatigue that we've talked about on so many occasions, that they want that alternative in the space. To tease that and not to deliver it, not to actually have anything in the pipeline, I think would be a miscalculation. But then again, these days, any engagement is good engagement, I suppose. So, yeah, we can just wait and see. But at this point, Derek, you mentioned going another year or two without an EA basketball game. I'm not sure we're going to get one this year. It feels like every year we've said, oh, this is the year. But at this point, I'm kind of trying not to get my hopes up at all and not really expecting anything in 2022.
Well, I almost want to talk a little bit more about promotion, right, and marketing. They haven't completely canceled the NBA Live series, right? There's been no announcement about them, closing the door on the NBA Live series. Why not use that EA Sports account or the EA Sports NBA Live account and promote the good parts of their history? You and I have talked about this
Definitely.
so many times. Promote the jam games that they made and that were so well received. Promote people's gameplay from their last NBA Live release, like NBA Live 19 and whatnot. Hell, promote my top 10 tweets that have NBA Live in it, right? Like stuff like that. Like, promote the, hey, this is the anniversary of NBA Live 2000, or this is the anniversary of this NBA Live game, or that NBA Live game, or this jam game, or did you know we had this feature in NBA Live 2001, or something like that. Like, promote the rich parts of your history, and I don't see why that would be a problem, especially because they haven't closed the door on the NBA Live series. The promotion and the marketing of the NBA Live series has not been good in a very long time.
No, I mean, you could say that they haven't really had the game to really back up that promotion, but now, as it is laying dormant and hopefully coming back at some point, we'd like to think, then by all means celebrate that rich history. The funny thing is, I was doing it for them with the 25th anniversary of NBA Live content. All they needed to do was retweet what I was tagging them in, and they would have had that promotion and promoting those ideas. That's something that I can do, and I'm not asking for money for them or any kind of clout or anything like that. I'm going to do that content anyway. So why not take advantage of that? But they didn't.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying too, though. Like with the top 10, right? Or like when I tagged them in that NBA Live 15 Durant highlight, or when I tagged them in gameplay videos that are positive, that are showing positive stuff about the series. Like, why isn't there somebody that's controlling that account that is promoting that stuff and putting NBA Live in people's heads? If they haven't, I can see if they officially close the series, right? Like if they officially close the door on the series, obviously they're not going to want to retweet that stuff or talk about the rich parts of their history, etc. But they haven't done that.
Makes me wonder if we should be tagging that at EA account, the official EA, the Electronic Arts account. That seems to be the one that seems to be celebrating history.
Yeah, maybe that's what I should do. Because I usually do EA Sports NBA Live. Maybe I should just do the main EA Sports account. I don't even know why we try anymore, to be honest. I think it's just because we love basketball video games, and we're making the videos anyways and playing the games anyways, so we just tag them.
I mean, I get it's a few extra keystrokes to tag an account, I suppose. So it's no extra effort really. So I suppose that's why we do it out of habit as much as anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do want to say that my brother and I are having a blast with NBA Live 2000. And the last thing I'll say about the Reggie Theus thing, which is just funny between him and I, is just every time he says one of his stat lines where he goes, Wilt Chamberlain gets his double-double or something like that, we both thank him out loud. We're like, thank you, Reggie. Thank you, Theus. Thank you, Theus. Thank you so much. It's become kind of a joke between us, but yeah, I don't care. I don't care what they said when NBA Live 2000 was released. We love Reggie Theus now.
I think that I can look back with some fondness on it, and you're right. It is, if you want that minimalist, I'm going to say minimalist modding, minimalist announcing, then it's definitely great for that. I did like what Bob Elliott brought to the series in the next few games, though. I thought he was great. Obviously great as Joe the Show in the first NBA Street as well.
What are your thoughts on Don Poier?
The late Don Poier, the voice of NBA Live for a few years there. I thought he brought that enthusiasm with his commentary. I like Don, but you couldn't go past Marv. When they got Marv, Albert, and the Czar, Mike Fratello, when they were able to bring them in, you had to push Don Poier aside. He was the voice of the Grizzlies for many years as well. But yeah, I thought he did an admirable job. I thought he did a good job in those first few years with Live.
So we really like Don. Here, my brother Nick and I, and we love the way it's like some of the way he delivers lines. Like he goes in the post, like he has this like way that he delivers his lines.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, exactly. That are very unique, and they're catchy. Like his delivery is very catchy. So we have absolutely no issues with Don Poier. In fact, we've been joking around a lot about how much we like Don Poier and Reggie Theus.
So more than the expanded commentary teams in 2K19?
I absolutely can't stand Doris Burke. In fact, myself and my brothers, we absolutely can't stand Doris Burke. And anytime we start a game on NBA 2K17 and up, and she's heard, like we hear her voice, we start the game over. Like she is just incredibly annoying to us. It just feels like all of her deliveries is like a lecture. It's like feels like she's trying to lecture all the time, and sometimes it's about the most basic stuff. And she's also incredibly agenda driven with a lot of her commentary. So we can't stand Doris Burke. Chris Webber rambles a lot when he's on commentary, so sometimes he gets a little bit annoying. But Jay Williams is still Jay Williams and Doris Burke. Jay Williams, obviously, for Live 19. They're the two worst for me, I think, in basketball video game history.
You know what I'm concerned about now is them bringing in JJ Redick in a future game.
Oh, my God. Why? So we can say that Bob Cousy played against plumbers and firemen?
Probably, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't even want to get into the JJ Redick stuff. That would be for the Holding Court podcast. If they bring in JJ Redick, I can promise you that my brothers and I will restart every game just to get him off the team.
You know, I wrote a Friday 5 recently, as I do every week, but about the presentation options that 2K needs. And one of the ones that I mentioned was the ability to select the commentary team that you want, because I don't necessarily really enjoy the team headed up by Brian Anderson. I'd always like to have the Kevin Harlan team. And within the Kevin Harlan team, I'd also like to be able to customize who comes up in the rotation for the third chair, the third commentator, alongside him and Greg Anthony. Now, this may be a long shot because obviously 2K is paying them to be quote-unquote on-air talent, but how great would that be if you could select your favorite commentators and take them out of the rotation, or rather your least favorite commentators and take them out of the rotation and only have your favorite commentators show up in the rotation. That along with atmosphere settings and the ability to skip faster through the presentation, that's not going to happen because, of course, of the advertising that they have in that presentation these days. but those presentation options would really be great quality of life features for 2K, and also just great presentation for what you enjoy the most. I'd love to see it.
I can agree with that. Do you mean like a commentary page in the options where they have like the list of the different commentators and you can like check a box or uncheck a box for them? Like I could uncheck Doris Burke.
Yeah,
that would be absolutely amazing. And check Chris Webber. Yeah, that would be phenomenal. We did find that way in NBA 2K22 on how to get it back to Kevin Harlan and whatnot. And it's by just starting over the game because it alternates. So we were able to do that. So like if we had Brian Anderson and Grant Hill, which my brothers and I do not like, on commentary, we would just quit that game and go into a new game, and it would give us Harlan and crew. So
that's a good hack. The problem is the NBA side of MyCAREER, when you quit out of a game, it saves the game in progress to restore later, so it keeps the commentator and everything. So it won't work for MyCAREER.
Right, yeah, but you don't even like MyCAREER on 2K22 anyway, so the good thing is that you're not playing it anymore.
I mean, a moot point for me at the moment, but in the future, or for anyone else's benefit, I'd like that option.
Oh, I totally agree. And yeah, of course, like atmosphere settings and everything. It's still wild to me that, games like NBA Jam 2004 had, when you played like the Bill Russell era teams, the game was in black and white, but we don't have like black and white filters now for like NBA 2K22.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No. So it would be cool to have like era specific filters because they could do it. The technology is there. I mean, Christ, if we were doing that in the early 2000s, we can definitely do it now. It's just not a priority for them at the moment.
Undoubtedly. And look, the presentation for NBA's Greatest and NBA 2K12, from what I've heard, was done almost as a fluke that they got it working just the way they wanted it to. So look, if you cut out some of the... Ideally, I'd love to have that back as an option, as a presentation option in the game. But even if they didn't have the audio filter, or they only had the video and the audio filters, even if they didn't have the era-specific overlays and whatnot, just having that visual filter and possibly the audio one as well, that would just be so great to play with for the older teams. You could add that as something to unlock and also use in My Team, so that you could dress up your court that way with retro presentation if you're a big retro gamer. You like the retro players. So I think that'd be a great thing to have, and obviously to use at any time in the other modes outside of My Team and whatnot. So yeah, I'd love to see those options, but as you say, not a priority because it doesn't really make money.
Yeah, the money-making modes, the money-making features and all of that stuff are going to take precedence, and that's what's happened. I did want to give an update really quick on NBA 2K19, the 94-95 season, with Stildo 33.
Yes.
Kid Cash did say that he's been really enjoying the videos, and we have people that like them, all the highlight videos that I'm posting on Twitter and then on YouTube as well. So we are 7 games into Stildo's Magic portion. He's 5-2. I've beat him with the Sixers, and I beat him with the Kings. I beat him with the Kings today with Mitch Richmond, Lionel Simmons, and Spud Webb and whatnot. I went off with Mitch Richmond. It was really fun. And with the Supersonics, I am 6-0. So he's still seeking his first win versus my team. Right now, he's 3rd in the Eastern Conference, and I am 1st in the Western Conference. But it's been a lot of fun. We played 3 games today, and this is definitely going to be a season that we finish.
No, I can tell just how much fun you're having with that series from the highlights that you're posting. Great to see the response to it so far. What team do you think he might take you down with?
Well, so I played against the Clippers tonight, and I ended up winning the game by 20. But it was close for about 3/4 of it, and the reason was, and you're not going to believe this, but I got killed by Elmore Spencer and Eric Riley.
Wow.
And that's a huge red flag. I think Elmore Spencer led his team in scoring with like 17 points for the game. Eric Riley had 11 points, and they both shot very well from the field goal percentage wise. So I have a hole that he doesn't have on the Magic. So he has very good interior defense on the Magic with Horace Grant and Shaq. But for me, Sean Kemp isn't very resistant at all defensively for my team, and Bill Cartwright and Sam Perkins aren't exactly rim protectors. So he's going to be using the bullets coming up in a couple games. And if you don't remember, I know you will, but if some of our listeners don't remember, the Bullets had a front line of Juwan Howard, Chris Webber, and George Marasan. And if I'm getting killed by Eric Riley and Elmore Spencer, the chances of me getting absolutely obliterated by Chris Webber, George Marasan, and Juwan Howard are going to be high. So I'm going to have to find a way to shore up my interior defense, or I'll get my first loss of the my first loss of the season. The game doesn't do a good job with players that are 7'3" and over as far as making them operate realistically on the court. You know this. So like a guy like George Marasan, who is 7'7", is actually going to be way more impactful in the video game than he would be in real life in those same situations. So I think that my first loss of the season, the best chance of that is going to be against the Bullets. And I think I have that game coming up 2 games from now.
Yeah, that 95 Bullets team, very interesting. They went 21-61. I know this because I recently wrote about Anthony Tucker as a single-season player who nevertheless started at least 20% of their games. And there's been quite a few of those. You can go back and check out that Way Back Wednesday. Cheap, shameless plug, as always. Yeah, as you said, you got that big front line with George Marasan, with the newly acquired Chris Webber, Juwan Howard, and did they also have Kevin Duckworth that year?
I believe they do, yeah. I didn't look down the bench, but if I remember correctly, that Kevin Duckworth is coming off the bench on that team.
And they've also got Scott Skiles and Rex Chapman. These are not big men, of course, but talking about...
Yeah, but he's got shooters. See, that's the thing. And in a video game, when you have that front line and you have shooters, that's like heaven.
But a lot of talent on that team. Not all of it healthy, not all of it in its prime, of course. But, yeah, they went 21-61 that year. But actually, kind of that team that could be fun to play with in a video game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I played against the Suns today, and I thought that had a chance of being my first loss. But I ended up actually winning that by, I think, 15 or 16 points that game. And that team's very good. That they had Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, Danny Ainge, Wayman Tisdale, Richard Dumas, etc. And Kevin Johnson. They're a good team. I think he just had an off game with them and whatnot. We talked about it after. But somehow that Bullets team scares me a lot more than that Suns team. And it's because when all of those pieces are on the floor for the Bullets and they are healthy, it gives you the inside game, the outside game, the slashing game, the face-up game, and it's absolutely stifling in the paint. So I'm going to have to hope that my outside shots are going in and that I have a little bit of luck as far as some misses around the rim from Webber and Marasan and whatnot.
So I do have to correct myself here, Derek. The single-season players who were starters Way Back Wednesday feature, you can't actually check that out yet. That will be May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. That's coming out. This is how much I've lost track of time, Derek, scheduling my features in advance. Time traveling here. So, yes, and very soon you'll be able to check out that feature. But there's 10 players I was able to find, Derek, played just a single season in the NBA, yet started at least 20% of their games. And you know how much I love trivia like that, and looking at it through the lens of basketball video games for Way Back Wednesday. But, yeah, what an oddity that you can start. Do you remember Chris Porter of the Warriors back in 2001? Again, started most of his games.
I remember the name, yeah.
Yeah, remember the name, yeah, Fort Minor. No, he started most of the games he played. I think 35 of the 51 games he played from memory, and had some legal problems, unfortunately, and never made it back to the NBA after that. But a lot of players like that, at least 10, started 20% of their games over their only season in the NBA.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm going to have to look this up because I remember it being funny and intriguing at moments, which was also funny that it was even intriguing. But I remember when Uri Welch was with the Celtics, I remember him starting way more games than he should have. And he was out of the league shortly after that. He ended up being traded, I believe, to the Cavs and was out of the league shortly after. But Uri Welch is a name that pops up as a guy who started quite a few more games than he should have in his short NBA career.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up here now. Started 68 out of 81 games in his second season with the Celtics in 2004. was traded to the Cavs, as you said, halfway through the 2005 season, but before that, did start 32 out of 55 games for the Celtics. So yeah, he's one of those players that just sticks in your mind like that.
Right, exactly. And how many games did he play in his career?
247, of which he started 102. Started 100 of the 136 games he played in Boston.
So see, there you go. So that's a guy who had a very, very short NBA career, but he actually started over 40% of his games.
Insane.
On 40%, yeah.
Virtual hardwood legend?
Uri Welch was not a virtual hardwood legend.
Interesting.
In fact, I remember being incredibly underwhelmed by Uri Welch whenever I used him in video games. He didn't have the height to be a Pat Garrity, to be a Walter McCarty, etc.
Didn't have the leaping ability to be a Jumpin' Joe Alexander?
Or an Alonzo G, exactly.
Actually, I matched up with Alonzo G in MyCAREER recently in a couple of games against the Cavs, who are doing quite well actually in this reality. They've come storming back, even though LeBron did not return there. He went to LA to play with Kobe. But every time I face G, I'm like, okay, is this the game that he goes off as he would for for Derek and his brothers? Is he going to be a virtual hardwood legend here? So far, not. He needs your skills on the virtual hardwood, Derek, to be a legend like that.
It was my brother Nick that killed us with him. Like I guarantee you that if we threw on like NBA 2K13 and my brother was using Alonzo G, he would pour in 50 plus points effortlessly against us still. I'll never forget all the poster dunks from him. NBA 2K13, it's almost impossible to block dunks anyway. And my brother would just drive from the perimeter constantly and throw it down on multiple defenders over and over and over and over again. He was just so dominant. So he wasn't as dominant in NBA 2K14, but man, in NBA 2K13, NBA 2K12, etc., he was unstoppable.
So I know the rule is with our top 10 that it has to be, unless you're throwing a lob to somebody, it has to be a play by you, the user. You know, the finisher can be a CPU player, obviously, as long as you're making that play yourself with your player. But if Alonzo G against me in MyCAREER does a ridiculous poster dunk, would you accept that for the top 10 as a kind of as a gag, maybe as a 10th spot?
It would have to be unbelievable.
I mean, it is Alonzo G. It could be unbelievable.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know if the computer can do what my brother Nick did with him, but I will say this about the top 10, and my brother and I were talking about this, and we thought this was funny. So we're both playing MLB The Show 2020, and we are about 80 games into the season now. We're both using drafted Legends teams. I'm using a bunch of Legends on the Red Sox. He's using a bunch of Legends on the Yankees, and it's all the other teams have Legends too. It's just like a full fantasy draft for Legends. Well, my brother drafted Michael Jordan. And so Michael Jordan a couple of weeks ago hit his first home run of the season. A huge home run. I don't know, maybe like 400 feet or something like that. 400 to 425 feet. And we almost put it in the top 10 because it was Michael Jordan. I know it's coming from a baseball game and whatnot, but hell, it's Michael Jordan hitting a home run. We decided not to do it. Like I was like, I can't do it. It's a baseball game, and he's not on the White Sox or anything like that. But it was close. It was very close to me including a Michael Jordan home run highlight in the NLSC top 10.
See, I would have enjoyed that because he did hit, I believe, at least a couple during his brief baseball stint. And I do remember also the trading cards from the 95 season still had a Jordan card, yet in his White Sox uniform, and actually listed him. You know, all the other NBA players have got their basketball position listed and everything, and their NBA team. But it actually had, in the NBA trading cards from that 94-95 Upper Deck Collector's Choice, I believe it was, had him on the on the White Sox, with the White Sox as his team and his baseball position listed there. So, you know what? Historically, I'd accept that. I think that would be cool. If you ever did that, I think it'd be funny. You know, the top 10 is a celebration of basketball gaming, yes, but the fun we have with video gaming. So, you know what? If you ever felt like doing that, I don't think anyone would mind. I
think if it happened with in the White Sox uniform with him wearing his correct number, probably. But I mean, he's wearing a Yankees uniform and he's number 47.
Yeah, and not quite right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not really quite right, but yeah, maybe I'll do it if it happens with him in a White Sox uniform.
So I mentioned 2K14, My Career. Just a very quick update. Still having a blast with that, as you know, because I'm still sending you highlights, and a couple of them have made it into the top 10 as of late, of course. Tristan Thompson is still demanding a trade. He is fed up, according to the roster screen that shows the morale. So there's only a few days left before the All-Star game and then the trade deadline, Derek. So we'll see if we move him on. But that'll be funny if he ends up playing with 3 teams in this in the space of a month, basically, or just over a month, because we traded for him at the beginning of January, and now he's still immediately wants out. Thaddeus Young went down with a concussion. Was it concussion? Actually, no, it was a bruised rib this time. Bruised rib. And so he's been able to start. So for a while there, his morale trended upwards a little bit. He's get a little bit happier because he's actually starting and playing. But in the last game, he didn't play so much. It was a blowout. For some reason, they take the other starters out, and I just still play my 41 minutes anyway, which suits me because I get to pad my stats and whatnot and control the action, and actually play the game. But he got taken out because it was a blowout. Only played 19 minutes, so he's upset again. I imagine we have to ship him out because you can't have that on a team that's contending for its third straight championship. You need everyone to have that be on the same page and not be looking out for their stats, except for me, of course, because I'm the star of the team. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he gets traded again, Derek. We traded Royce White for Brandon Rush and Marvin Williams. Actually, really enjoying playing with Marvin Williams, Derek, because he's great in the pick and pop in the game. He's got a very good 3-point rating. Rush is already out with plantar fasciitis, which I can relate to. So he hasn't played too many games, but that was a great deal. Royce White for those 2 players. Very much enjoying having them on the team in the short time they've been there. But yeah, Tristan Thompson and his drama may be moving on very soon.
Tristan Thompson and drama, they go hand in hand. And like you said, that's the last thing you want on a championship team. So get him the hell out of there. Was it emotional? I saw you post the screenshot. Was it emotional playing against former teammate Spencer Hawes?
It kind of was, and it was kind of cool to actually match up against the former team. That's why I wanted to take that screenshot. Kind of we meet again. But then he set a really hard screen on me, so it was back to competitive nature after that.
I feel like I remember Spencer Hawes being pretty good in NBA 2K14. I also feel like I remember Marvin Williams being incredibly effective because he has a high 3-point rating. And he's tall.
Yep. And
I feel like I remember him being incredibly fun to use in the times that I've used him. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that you, an assist hunter and playmaker, I'm not surprised that you would love playing with Marvin Williams.
Oh, definitely. It's been fun so far. The efforts to get Terry Hansen Rookie of the Year continue as well, throwing him some lobs. Caught a pretty good lob myself, though. Now that I got my dunk rating all the way up these days, that might be in a future top 10 as well, because I know you enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I immediately said I saved that.
Yep.
Like right after you set the link and whatnot. I thought it was a really good top 10. Speaking of which, this week we had a highlight from Dunk Dream. Again, from at B-Ball Video Games, my NBA Live 2000, Jordan Jam, your steal and breakaway 360 on NBA 2K14, Stildo 33 on NBA 2K19, the steal and fast break self alley-oop switching hands with Penny Hardaway, Andre Jamal with his Ja Morant poster dunk on Karl Anthony Towns, which took the #1 spot, NBA Live 18, the Live King, etc. Like, really good top 10 this week, and your 2K14 My Career highlights are kind of being preserved via the top 10. If you really think about it, you've been in there many weeks in a row now with some of your best highlights, and it's going to be something cool that you'll be able to look back on and be like, oh, I remember when that happened. That was awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got them all archived, but I don't always open up the archives to watch them again. Although perhaps I should, because I do, again, getting a lot of them built up over these 3 years. But no, I love having them in the top 10. Always flattered to see them there. And you're right, it was another very strong top 10 this week. Some very unique highlights, which is always cool to see. Dunk Dream being in there was a surprise. Although I do remember him. I do remember at People Video Games posting about that on Twitter. And he's also responded to the mailbag this week, so it'll be great to hear from him on this week's topic. But everyone just keeps sending in these great highlights and enjoying it. And yeah, like you said before, Derek, it's not getting old. I mean, you put them together, so you're putting more work into it than I am. but you still seem to be enjoying doing that every week.
I love putting it together. I can't believe that we're on week number 50. We're almost a year into this, and I love getting the highlights either via email or from the NLSC or on Twitter and whatnot. I get super excited. I watch them immediately. I think of ways to improve the appearance of them if they're like low FPS or if they come over like too dark or something like that. If I have to clean up the frame rate, etc. I think of different ways that I can highlight the play, whether it be like zooming in on the player dunking or doing a split screen type of thing like I did with my NBA Live 2000, Michael Jordan dunk, etc. So love getting the highlights. I love putting it together, and I love all of the reactions that I get from it. And it's definitely not something that's going to go away anytime soon. I can't wait to start year 2. I am thinking about possibly changing up the layout and maybe the music. And I'm actually going to ask the basketball community what they think about that. Do they want me to keep the same layout and the same music for year 2, or do they want me to switch it up? It's funny that music that I use for the NLSC top 10, whenever we hear it on the old live games and whatnot, it screams top 10, right? We think of the 10 immediately when we hear that music, like we heard it when we were playing NBA Live 2000 last night. It's something I've thought about, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, it's originally from the NBA Live 99 soundtrack, of course, and then got recycled over the next few years as incidental music and arena music in other live games, which was a really cool throwback that they did for a while there in NBA Live, recycling those original tracks to as the incidental music. So no, I mean that would be very interesting to see what the community thinks about that. I mean, I think that's a great track, but there's a lot of other ones that would also be just as great for the top 10, and you do feel like with your content you have to keep it fresh. You have to change it up every once in a while.
Yeah, I think that the highlights themselves keep it fresh.
True.
And that's why I'm kind of open to switching it up, but we'll see. I'll ask the community and see what they think. I'll even run a Twitter poll on it. But before we move on to the mailbag, I wanted to know, do you have any other updates from NBA 2K14, from your MyCAREER?
Just that I'm getting towards the All-Star weekend, I suppose. My third straight All-Star appearance. I actually lost the All-Star game in last year in 2015, so I'll have to see if I can redeem myself as the... it doesn't do the captain's approach. It's the old traditional East versus West, which I still prefer in the All-Star game, and none of that Elam stuff as well. Just putting it out there. So I need to bounce back and win the All-Star game this year. I think I did put up 50 points in the last game, but it was in a losing effort, so that's empty stats in a loss, as you know, Derek. So yeah, I need to redeem myself with that this year. Looking forward to the second half of the season. Still leading the league in every category, funnily enough, the 5 major statistical categories. With my current numbers, Derek, I have the ability to have a 3,000 point, 1,000 assist, 1,000 rebound season. So that'll be cool to achieve if I can indeed keep up the rebounding numbers. I'll get there with assists and points with the current averages. Unlikely to drop, but rebounds, it needs to be above that 12.1 per game. So we'll see, but no, still having a blast with it. Looking ahead, still pondering the future, whether I will move on or just really make a dynasty here in Philadelphia where I'm at the moment. So yeah, no, just having a blast with it, and it's not getting old. I'm loving the idea, Derek, of playing a full career, because everyone plays at least one season, or most people play at least one season of the NBA side of MyCAREER, if for no other reason to grind up a player for online, which obviously I'm not doing in 2K14. But the idea of playing that mode as it was kind of originally intended to be that multi-year mode, same as multi-year franchise mode, to play through the years and have the league transform and to really put your stamp on the league. I'm just enjoying that concept of playing a full proper career in MyCAREER.
Is this the most seasons you've ever played in a MyCAREER type mode?
Yes. I've played 2 full seasons in 2K19 and part of a third, but the servers were getting shut down, so I'd already made to the Hall of Fame requirements, so I retired to get that cutscene, which you can find on the NLSC YouTube channel, of course, and also I did a feature about that as well. But yeah, now that I'm almost 50 games into year 3, that's the furthest I've gotten in my career.
That's amazing. I'm surprised 2K17 you didn't get further.
Well, I mean, I was actually one full season, the rookie season, and maxing out the player, and then part of the second when I moved to the Bulls from the Nuggets. Probably just because I was playing so much Pro-Am. It's so much splitting it with the online scene. That's probably why I didn't play more of that. Wish I still had that save. I'd probably pick that one up as well. But this is the furthest I've played in, apart from simulating in 2K19 or 20 on PC, just to see how many seasons you can actually play before it forces you to retire. And the answer is 20.
I do remember, by the way, NBA 2K17, how big you were into Pro-Am and how big you were into that NLSC team-up online. And I remember seeing the highlights and whatnot, and a couple of even made the top 10 after you digged them out of the archives and whatnot. And that just shows how much you loved NBA 2K17 because you just wanted to be online all the time and playing with that NLSC squad. And I think that the gameplay for 2K17 just still stands out.
Oh, absolutely. And that was our Friday night, meeting up for a few games in the evening on a Friday, because we were all in Australia or New Zealand in Leo's case. So getting on there for a few hours every Friday, and then sometimes, especially Ben, Kenny and I would play as a unit of 3 with a couple of AI players joining in, and a lot of other teams were also had just the 3 users with a couple of AI players, or 3 or 4, and which is why that option should be in the game under proper matchmaking options and deeper matchmaking options, to put that out there again. But yeah, that was just such a fun time. I do miss that, but at the same time, the current scene just isn't as fun, so yeah, we've all kind of drifted away from that and just play our own things these days, which is it's a shame because you miss out on that social aspect of it, but the game needs to support it as well. You know, getting on the mic and joking around and having a chat while you're playing is it's not enough to make up for a game that you're not enjoying.
Well, hey, at least we have the Parsec sessions now. So
absolutely.
At least we're able to get together and experience games either against or on the same team using Parsec, and we've been able to go back and play a lot of classic titles. But I definitely get what you mean, especially when there's still that itch to want to play the current title, right? It's the most recent basketball gaming title, and there's part of you, I know, just like with me, that wishes you could get into it, right? Wishes you had other people to get into it with you that you're friendly with and whatnot. So definitely I understand the draw. For me, I just couldn't do it. I can't play NBA 2K22 online, and I've soured on the gameplay outside of just doing co-op Legends with my brother. So,
but at least you're able to get your money's worth that way. I mean, I probably haven't got my money's worth with 2K22, to be completely honest. I buy the game every year. I budget for it. I am a collector, as you know, so I was going to get it regardless and to cover it for the NLSC. But it's definitely one of those games where, I mean, 2K14, I've gone back and got more than my money's worth. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to 2K22 and really have that same experience that I am with 2K14. I just don't see that.
No, the gameplay will just not hold up as well. Like, the gameplay is not as good or as fun or as free-flowing on NBA 2K22 as it is on NBA 2K14. And that's why, I've been sticking with the older titles, even in this season with Stildo 33, with the proper adjustments on NBA 2K19. By default, I don't really enjoy that game at all. But with the proper adjustments, you can make the game fun and free-flowing and really good for head-to-head, something I can't do with NBA 2K22. So yeah, NBA 2K19 and prior is kind of what I've been sticking with. Same with you.
Definitely. And, you mentioned the modes that we've been playing, and MyCAREER in my case, and you've been playing the seasons and maybe the first year of franchise mode with fantasy drafts and whatnot, or just Legends versus the NBA teams, as you say. And there's a lot of different ways that we can play basketball video games, and it's one of those things where sometimes people can get very elitist about it, very judgmental about, oh, you play this, you play that, you play offline, online's where it's at. If you're enjoying yourself on the virtual hardwood, that's where it's at, and with the game itself and the mode within the game. And you threw out the question this week, the mailbag question, what do you spend the most time on when playing basketball video games, and why? And you threw out examples: exhibition play, franchise, MyCAREER, roster editing, online, etc. Because a lot of people, as we've said before, do mod the games perhaps more than they they play them or do so in equal measure and whatnot. So we got some great responses this week.
Yeah, I mean, I was ecstatic with the response. I think we got over 15 responses overall, and about 10 of them came in almost immediately after I presented the mailbag question on Twitter. So thank you to all of those who responded. I find it fascinating on how, people play these games, how they want to be playing these games, what they spend their most time on in the game. So, let's get to it.
Yeah, people definitely wanted to let us know what they've been playing. So with that in mind, let's open up the mailbag.
To the mailman, the pump fake. What an unbelievable dunk!
So first up, we have Knowledge Bone at the Harassment on Twitter. Always great to hear from him. I'd say in 2K, I spend the most time in my team, trying to acquire my favourite vintage players to make an ill roster. With the older games, I try to beat or complete different modes that I didn't play back in the day. And I can definitely relate to both of those, Derek. Whenever I was playing my team, had to get an MJ every year, had to get a Pippin. Not so thrilled about that these days, of course, but always had to get an MJ and put together that vintage roster. Loved having. And yes, with the older games, obviously I'm doing that right now with my MyCAREER. And I also love going back and completing things, getting trophies, achievements, or whatnot. Stuff that I didn't do back in the day, just getting that sense of completion. So I'm totally with him on both counts there.
Yeah, I think one of my responses to him was related to NBA Live 15 and Live 16. I really wish that I had gotten into Ultimate Team in both of those games because, I go back and play Live 15 and Live 16, and I actually enjoy many aspects of the gameplay. I like the dunks. I like the feel at times of how, a fast break works, like the pace of it and whatnot. And I just picture myself, using Julius Erving in those games and getting on a fast break and throwing down some monster dunk or stylish jam, etc. Or like with Clyde, or like using Clyde Drexler and whatnot. Remember, I tried to get into Ultimate Team in NBA Live 18, and I just thought the gameplay was really, piss poor overall for that mode, unfortunately, in that specific game. But Live 15 and Live 16, I enjoy the gameplay a little bit more. So, yeah, I regret that because it would have been fun to collect those players, search out my favorite players, and beat up on the computer, etc. So good for you, Knowledge Bone, to get into that every year. I wish I had done that with Live 15 and Live 16.
Now, I did that with Live 15, of course. I had my 90s, my Decade All-Stars, my 90s All-Stars team that I put together in Live 15. Had a blast with that, did a video back in the day, a mix with my NBA Live 15 Ultimate Team highlights, a lot of dunks from Sean Kemp. That was a lot of fun, of course. And having Sean Kemp in a Bulls uniform reminded me a lot of my NBA Live 06 Dynasty on PC, where I added him to the roster as an aging legend to add to my team as to man the middle. So that brought back great memories for that, and it was Live 15. It was an improvement on Live 14. I, looking back, probably should have played a bit more of 2K15 if I wanted the much better experiences on the sticks. But Live 15, I did enjoy for what it was. Live 16, I did play a bit of Ultimate Team in that one, but unfortunately, I ruined it for myself at the community event, because at the community event that year the last one that I attended in 2015, there I was able to use the debug packs and unlock all the legends straight away and play some Ultimate Team with all the legends that were ever going to be released over the course of the season. So I had this super team that I was never going to be able to replicate again, most likely, in the final version, and didn't. So I kind of spoiled myself. But I had that cool experience at the community event. But Live 16 was pretty solid all around.
Yeah, I've seen your Live 15 90s players highlights and like your overall Ultimate Team highlights, and I actually sent you a message on Twitter, if you remember correctly, and I said, hey, do you still have these highlights? Some of these are top 10 worthy, send them over. So I'm still waiting on those, just to let you know. I'm like tapping my foot right now, waiting for the Live 15 highlights, because there was definitely a couple of really good ones by Kemp and whatnot. I don't think it was Odom. There was another guy who had a really big dunk with that looked outstanding. But yeah, I'd like to see those highlights, like the better quality versions.
Need to dig into the highlights. Need to dig into the archives and send those over for sure. So I appreciate the reminder. Yes, and don't blame me for tapping the foot, because that was about a week ago at least that you sent that through. So yes, I'll need to get into that. But speaking of the top 10 again, Derek, from Basketball Video Games at B-Ball Video Games on Twitter, our friend trying to get clips for the NLSC top 10. We love to hear that. Obviously, the Dunk Dream this week. Also love franchise modes. For me, it's more fun starting off with a middle-of-the-road team and finding ways to make them better year over year instead of starting off with a stacked team. Weird, I know. Actually, I must disagree. That's not weird. A lot of people love doing that, taking that team and rebuilding, or even taking a horrible team and rebuilding it and making them an underdog champion and whatnot. That's one of the great things about franchise modes. If you're playing them that way, Derek, as I do, taking starting out with the real rosters and then maybe reshaping them and making the trades that you wish that your favorite team could make, or you think would be very cool for a team to make at the time. Franchise modes. Although I haven't spent as much time with them in recent years, despite all my I'm going to go back and play them. I did play some MyGM in 2K14. That'll probably be my next retro kick after I need to take a bit of a break from MyCAREER. Although at the moment I don't really feel like doing so. But no, franchise modes I've had so much fun with over the years, and rebuilding teams like that, or taking a middle of the road team and making them into a champion again, or for the first time. That's one of the great things about franchise modes. People sleep on the single player experiences all the time. So I'm all about that, Derek.
At B-Ball Video Games, we love having you in the top 10, and I think you would agree that it definitely adds a different layer to your basketball gaming experiences, right? When you're shooting for that highlight, when something does happen, you think about the top 10 immediately, be like, that's a top 10 play. I want everybody to see that. So definitely love that that's added a positive layer to your basketball gaming experiences. As far as starting with the team middle of the pack or even worse, doing a franchise and whatnot, that's one of the popular things actually over on Operation Sports and on the NLSC forums. You'll see a couple of threads at least every year of somebody saying, hey, I want to start a franchise. What team should I start it with? And usually in that paragraph where they're explaining, how they want the structure of their franchise, they'll say, I want to rebuild a team, right? Or I want a struggling team, or I want a team that, I can bring from the ground up and whatnot. So I don't think he's weird for that. I think that that's probably actually the preferred style for most people, is they don't want like a stacked team. They want a team that they can maybe, make some surprises with, and, maybe get a better record than they should or than they did in real life. And maybe they can make roster moves to improve their team and whatnot that weren't done in real life that they wish were done in real life. And I know that you definitely can connect on that, because, I've watched your Chicago Bulls commentary from NBA Live 06, your franchise on that. And you've talked to me so many different times off air about how much you loved, the whole franchise gaming experience, on the older NBA Live games when you were super into it. So I know that you can connect with him on that level.
No doubt. Absolutely loved playing franchise, later Dynasty mode in NBA Live back in the day. Missed out on a lot of the deep franchise experiences in 2K, which is kind of one of my basketball gaming regrets, but it's always there to go back to, of course, in a game that I really enjoy. I did have plans of getting into it in 2K22, but again, gameplay kind of fell through on me there. Yeah, you bring up the stacked team, and I've written about this before, and I think probably talked about it on the podcast as well. But one of the ways you can really ruin a franchise mode game is to stack your team. So it gets to the point where you're just going for stats and trying to get everybody minutes, and it looks completely unrealistic because you've just robbed the CPU, you've taken advantage of the trade logic to just get this stacked team, and it stops being as fun, at least in my experience. Conversely, my team and Ultimate Team, it is fun when you have a stacked team. That's kind of the point of those fantasy modes, and I enjoy it there. But in a franchise mode, I have ruined some saves before, and actually my 06 Dynasty with the Bulls, I kind of stacked it a little bit too much, and then I was able to correct course by making a few trades and getting the roster back on track and a bit more fun to play with. But yeah, I actually enjoy playing with that balanced lineup and that realistic lineup than a completely stacked lineup that is more like a My Team or Ultimate Team roster.
Are you indirectly insulting my Legend seasons with my brother?
Yep.
I'm just kidding.
No, well, I mean, that's the thing.
Well, no, because that's a different experience.
It's a different concept, yeah.
That's like Ultimate Team or My Team for us, right? Like that's just like a fun season where we're playing it on the hardest level, but we're just really going for stats, and we have stat goals. That wouldn't be fun at all if we were trying to be like in any way realistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like what we're shooting for with that. However, if you think about it, sometimes that mindset can change depending on how you're playing the season. If you're playing a single player, doing it as a single player experience, and you're just playing the computer every game, that is going to be looked at differently by you than if you're doing what Stildo and I are doing, where we're controlling two different teams in the same MyLEAGUE and we're going against each other every single game. So both of us in this season, I'm using the Supersonics, who won 57 games. They lost in the first round to the Lakers, surprisingly. He's using the 57-win Magic, who made it to the NBA Finals. So we're both using good teams. But the extra layer is that this is not a single-player experience, that you were not playing against the computer. So we're challenging each other on a night-in, night-out basis. So I think that it has to be looked at that way.
Oh, for sure. And the other thing with your Legends season is that's something you assembled yourself going in, and the other teams are intact and they're at full strength. I mean, they're still overmatched by a team of the greatest players of all time, obviously, but that you've got those teams intact to be as challenging as possible, as challenging as they possibly can be on the difficulty that you're playing on, but which is the harder difficulties, obviously.
Russell played firemen and plumbers, right? He played with Bob Cousy, so that's got.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, give me a break. No, but the other layer to that too, though, is that it's also a co-op fun experience too.
Exactly.
Like, it's not right. It's my brother and I doing it. I will never start a Legend season against the computer by myself. Like, that's not something I'm interested in.
But even if you did, that is something you put together, and you've got those opponents that are intact. When you start with real rosters, or current rosters, I should say, and you make all those trades, and you rip off the CPU, and you've got this stacked team, and then you're just going up against this weak competition because all the stars are on your team, and all the a lot of other teams have lost their best players because they're now coming off the bench for you. I find that's when it really ruins it, or when your bench is a bit too stacked. I find when you put it together that way and it feels a bit false. You're doing a fantasy situation, which is so that's kind of the point. Whereas mine I prefer that kind of more realistic approach of, I'm taking control of an NBA team and making the trades that I'd like to make and leading them to glory, etc. So it's a different and nothing's universal, I should say, but it is a way I've found that it can ruin your franchise if you stack your team in too contrived of a manner for the way you're playing.
Right. The lesson here, NLSC listeners, is if you're going to rip off and cheat the computer, do it from the beginning. That's what we're trying to say here.
Yeah, maybe so. Yes. So next up, we have the Libo 1 legend at Nate Stasho, our friend Nate. Season and playoff. Picking single matchups is fun, but watching stats accumulate is the ultimate basketball video game feat. And you and I know that very well. The stat tracking is a very important part of any mode that we play, whether it's career, season, franchise, playoffs, etc. It's great to go in and look at the stats, look at the standings changing throughout the season, and building those stats, obviously, that you don't have in that exhibition play. And I know you've talked about it before, writing stats down and making your own articles and things like that. And that's also what we've done with the story threads that you mentioned with our franchise games and career games in the forum, and they do it over at OS as well. So yeah, we can definitely relate once again.
No, 100%. My brother and I talk about this all the time. Progression. Like, we want to see progression. We want to see the averages, in totals accumulate over the season. We like to see where we rank in the league leaders. We like to see when the all-star voting pops up, right? When the defensive player of the year, the most valuable player, 6-man award stuff starts popping up. We want to see where our players are going to be. And sometimes in these, in NBA 2K17, NBA 2K16 and forward and whatnot, those usually only pop up about 30 games into the season. Right. So you definitely have to get a little bit deeper into the season until you start seeing those awards and then the all-star voting and all of that stuff. So, it's very important. Stildo and I have already gone in so many times on our 94-95 season on 2K19 and looked at, how many players we have in the double figures, how many people are averaging 10 rebounds a game, how many players that we have that are shooting over 40% from three. We go into the player comparison screen and put Shaq versus Sean Kemp, almost like a MVP tracker type thing. And we look at their stats side by side, and we do the same thing with Penny and Peyton. And, we're going into the team stats and looking at the point differential. how many points per game are we scoring as teams? How much are we beating our opponents by, etc. Seeing areas where we can improve, all of that stuff. So progression is incredibly important, and the stats and awards are so fun to look at.
You know what I realized, speaking of my career in year 3, I'm actually paying attention to the standings more than before. And the reason that I usually don't is because my team ends up at the top of the standings, as most people do when they play the NBA side of my career. So this isn't a boast. This is just this is the way that my career turns out, and a lot of franchise modes as well. When you're competent at basketball games, you end up with a pretty good record. But I often, Derek, I realized this the other day, that I don't really pay attention to the standings that much. I'm just like, okay, well, who shows up, I'm going to play and try and beat, and then whoever shows up in the playoffs, the seedings and whatnot, I'm going to face them as well at some point, and just play whoever shows up as I put up stats and win games. But I've actually been looking more at the standings recently and seeing how the league takes shape, and especially because there's been some player movement. I've seen the Charlotte Bobcats rise up the standings because they got Rondo in the off-season. So now they've got this playmaker and a champion who is helping guide them and helm that team to more success. And I've seen other teams rise and fall, and the Lakers are now starting to get it together with Kobe and LeBron playing together, and they're rising up the standings. They're battling with the Blazers for the top seed in the West. One of them is going to come out probably out of the West to presumably face me coming out of the East. The Blazers I faced in year 1, so that'll be a great rematch of my first NBA Finals in this my career, or the Lakers, of course. The Lakers and 76ers have clashed in the finals before as well, so that would be a cool renewal of that rivalry on the virtual hardwood. So looking at these standings and seeing how it's panned out. The Nets acquired Dirk Nowitzki and Sean Marion, but it hasn't really worked out for them. So seeing that player movement and now seeing how it's affecting the standings around the league, which is something I used to do in franchise mode, but not really in my career because I'm so focused on leveling up a player. But now that I'm maxed out and just kind of enjoying this experience in year 3, I'm looking at those standings, Derek, as well as the stats. I was always looking at the stats and the league leaders, but now I'm looking at the standings and seeing how the teams how they're rising and falling with this different movement that they're making, and it's so entertaining.
I think the reason why it's more interesting, the number one reason, is because of all that player movement, which gives a different dynamic to each team that has had that movement, right? And I think the second biggest reason why it's probably a little bit more interesting is because now there's a history with those teams.
Yes.
Whether it be playoffs or, regular season matchups and whatnot. So no, I definitely think that's awesome.
And I do quickly, before we move on, want to mention about exhibition games, because yes, they're not as exciting as being able to accumulate stats and build towards the championship and the goal and whatnot. But I will say that over the past year, taking that break from grinding in the newer modes, the newer versions of MyCAREER and whatnot, and getting back to just playing some fun matchups here and there in 2K17, playing with some of the all-time college teams, for example, that DLC, or playing with some of the Legends teams, the retro teams, rather, in 2K17, 2K14, just playing some one-offs, or even something like the quick pick play, the fantasy teams mode in NBA Live 10 that we've been doing and putting together fantasy matchups and makeshift retro teams and things. So I've found that one-off games, especially playing against you over Parsec and setting up these interesting scenarios, I will say that exhibition modes are kind of underrated. That play can be very fun too. So I will say that.
So play now and exhibition, I've never been a fan of, really, in my family circle. Like my brothers and I, we never got into that. We always, jump right into fantasy drafts or using classic teams or even using regular teams at times and jumping into a season or franchise because we want that stat accumulation. We want that progression. We want to see who's going to come out on top in the standings, etc. But Parsec, connecting with people from all around the world, trying to get quick games in and everything, I love exhibition and play now and quick games on arcade games and all of that stuff. I look forward to it. Another dimension that helps with that is the video portion, showing off that game that you and I may have just had, right? Like that NBA Live 07 exhibition game that we played. I don't know if we're technically showing that off or, basically just doing it to rag on the game.
We're demonstrating it, I suppose.
I guess you call it demonstrating. That's probably the nicest way to put it. But yeah, I really look forward to those exhibition games, in part also because I like to share those clips with the community and have those shared experiences with those people.
And of course, next up we have Stildo 33. This is from the Neon and Butch Gaming account, and of course, you check out Neon and Butch Gaming on YouTube for all the 2K19 season that you're playing, the 94-95 rosters. Says MyLEAGUE franchise season about 95% of the time. Play now for the rest of it. My career is dumb, LOL, in my opinion, but I see why people like it. I mean, shots fired at my career there, but no, I get it. It's one of those things where if you're not into that scene, and certainly if you're not into the online scene as I was for a few years there, it'd be very difficult to see the appeal. And there is a lot of appeal in the franchise modes, as I said, and controlling a lot of different players, not being locked to one avatar. But I will say that playing through an NBA career and stepping into the shoes of an NBA player and leveling up and having that journey to superstardom, and I mean, now you have the stories in my career as well, but even being able to write your own stories in subsequent years I've been doing, and letting the gameplay and the results drive the narrative, that's a lot of fun. And like he says, you can see why people like it. But if it's not your thing, it probably would be very dumb. I will concede that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's dumb. It's just not something that I've been interested in.
Yeah,
I see the appeal. Like, I see why people would enjoy it. I see the sense of progression portion. I see the story portion. I see the the coolness of it. Like, I get it. So, like, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's dumb. As far as the other portion, he says about 95% franchise and season. Surprising, I put in there roster editing, and he's probably spent hundreds, maybe thousands of hours now on the 2K19 rosters editing. So I think maybe he forgot about that. I don't know how he could. But, as far as playing it, it sounds like he spends most of his time playing franchise or season. And the cool thing is, or like MyLEAGUE and NBA 2K, and the cool thing is now we can experience it because of Parsec with another human. So we've been having a blast with our season.
Well, speaking of spending a lot of time editing rosters, we have King J Mace, at King J Mace, of course, on Twitter. Roster editing. Most games don't have enough attention to detail on their roster out of the box, so I spend hours tweaking things. Also, Philly I'm 2K, at Philly I'm 2K on Twitter. Roster editing and making, majority of the time, especially draft classes, but also franchise season and sometimes exhibition play now. So yeah, a lot of people do spend a lot of time tweaking the game before they play it.
Well, King J Mace, I know he does a lot of roster editing on the blacktop stuff. Like, he loves blacktop mods. He loves that street ball aspect, and you can see that in a lot of his videos that he uploads to his YouTube. And his Parsec sessions with the community are usually based on blacktop type gameplay. So and he also has some great highlights, one which made it into the recent top 10 from those sessions. So I'd say with King J Mace, it's a lot of roster editing, but he's also doing a ton of connecting with people on Parsec and having like all day sessions with people on NBA 2K22. So that's pretty cool. Roster editing, how it was thousands of hours I worked on NBA 2K, my 2K17 rosters, with editing signatures, tendencies, attributes, adding teams, adding players, creating art for the mod, all of that stuff. So I definitely get the draw to roster editing, and I understand why there's a lot of people who spend the majority of their time doing that editing. Unfortunately, because they feel they have to edit so much, like King J Mace mentioned, a lot of people aren't playing the games and creating memories that way as much as they should.
I will say, and not to downplay the importance and skill and time it takes to make other mods. You've mentioned to me how long you've spent making the perfect, sculpting the perfect head shape, head model for players when making faces for them. But rosters, man, they take hours upon hours. Again, when you were making the Ultimate Classic Teams roster, just how many of the hours you spent on 2K17 all up just on that roster alone and doing all the in-game editing and whatnot. So it definitely adds up. And back in the day, I was very stingy about letting people use my current rosters for NBA Live PC as a base, because it felt like people were sitting around and waiting for me to do all the hard work and the legwork, creating players and moving players around and getting ratings right, just so they could swoop in, change a few ratings and say, oh, I've got a roster update too, and it's based on Andrew's, but he did pretty much all of the work. I just changed some ratings.
Well, that happened a couple times on the forums too, remember? And
it did, yeah.
It was a huge outcry where somebody would do all of that work on a draft class or a roster or something like that, and somebody else would snatch up the roster, do a couple tweaks, and then start a new thread and try to release like that roster. And they wouldn't even give proper credit normally either.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's such a huge red flag, and honestly a scumbag thing to do.
It really is, because roster, it is for any mod, don't get me wrong, but rosters taking as long as they do, and you can spend weeks getting that roster together and getting it just right and whatnot, and for people to take it without even asking permission first, without even giving any kind of credit. I mean, I still wouldn't be happy about that situation, but it would at least be like, well, at least they said it was based on my roster, but they're trying to pass it off as their own work, and I go into the database and I can see, oh, and all the players are created in the exact same order that I did them. And it's even got some of the mistakes I've made and corrected in the database, that kind of work as a watermark in the future. So, yeah,
it's almost like a slap in the face when you work thousands of hours on a roster and somebody else releases a version of your roster after downloading it with just a few tweaks, and they say something like, base roster D for free. Like, my thousands of hours with this roster, and you're going to use like 99% of the work, and all you're going to say for credit is base roster D for free. Like, what a slap in the face.
It is. Yeah, and we do encourage people to share work and have open source and whatnot, but there are some things that you don't want to have reworked and modified and re-released. Like that, and a big roster project is one of them, and certainly ask first, because sometimes most people will be pretty cool about it, and you can say, look, I appreciate you asking me, and I'd rather you suggest edits that I might possibly want to implement, or put out a thread and say, hey, I suggest these edits for the roster, and some people might still find that disrespectful, but it's at least that's not stealing the work and trying to pass it off as your own, or even if you do give credit, as you said, just saying, oh, based on D4-3's roster, but it's basically your roster with a couple of minor tweaks. It's not cool, and it's one of those things where we encourage people to share work and to share resources and to be open source when possible, but there are some times when it's quite reasonable to say, look, this is my work, I don't want it edited and re-released.
Yeah, 100%.
So, Derek, Play Now Online is a mode I haven't spent a lot of time with myself. In fact, I don't think I've ever even tried it, apart from going into the menus maybe to get a screenshot to mention it in passing in an article. But a lot of people do play it. The B-Ball Pundit, at B-Ball-Pundit2 on Twitter, says Play Now Online. Leader of the Foot Clan, at aka_Chuck_Cruss, says, my team and Play Now Online, even though online is a dumpster fire, which I certainly agree with online across the board in 2K, unfortunately, for many reasons. Once again, proper matchmaking. And Steve from the Dot, the Live King, says, play now an exhibition, mostly just trying to ball and run plays without stressing over outcomes. So yeah, that's we talk about the stat accumulation and building towards a result in the franchise and season and career modes and whatnot. But obviously a lot of people do love that exhibition play, just jumping into a game and having fun.
Well, yeah, I was never able to get into Play Now Online, but I do like what the Live King said. Steve from the Dot, he talked about liking to, he just likes to play and ball without worrying about outcomes. Like, he wants to run plays and just have fun hooping. And I don't think what he means is worry about outcomes. Like he's not saying he wants to lose, right? Or like he doesn't care if he loses. Like he obviously is probably, but what he doesn't want is all of the unnecessary drama. He doesn't want the gambling mechanics. He doesn't want to be bothered with the stressful aspects that can be brought on at times from basketball gaming. So I do like that approach.
So we have some more support for MyLEAGUE, for franchise modes. Ricky at Ethnol Bargen on Twitter. MyLEAGUE NBA 2K, simply because you can customize everything and especially get as Simmers-like as possible career doing so. Yes, a lot of people actually use MyLEAGUE and play a lock on it to do their own MyCAREER without all the bells and whistles and, of course, the microtransactions. Plus, I discovered back on 16 that you can do a realistic MyCAREER inside MyLEAGUE with player creation and let the career roll with highs and lows, as he says. Yeah, that's something a lot of people are doing, as I said, to avoid those microtransactions. I said what I said at DJ81 on Twitter. Also dives into franchise modes. I love running a team and going through a circus of a season. At SweetJones_OTF, Big Perk also says franchise mode. Matt Lauderdale at Matt L. Dale on Twitter. Franchise and modding close to even. So yeah, a lot of people love franchise mode, which I love to see, because everyone says, oh, that's for old heads, or that's outdated, it's all about the online scene. No, it's not. There's still a lot of value in the franchise experience.
Ridiculous that people say that, and I see that all the time on Operation Sports as well, where people and on like Twitter feeds, etc., where people are like, nobody cares about the franchise mode, or nobody really cares about offline anymore, or nobody cares about franchise progression anymore and stuff like that. And it's all about, the builds and etc. And, getting out in the park or the city and etc. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And this mailbag question and the responses to it, kind of prove that, to be completely honest. And another way that that's proven is look at all of the rosters that people download, like Dest roster or other rosters that are updating attributes, signatures, ratings, all of that stuff. There are people, hundreds of thousands, upwards to, millions of people that are downloading these rosters. And where are they taking these rosters most of the time? Into franchise mode, right?
Exactly.
Into a MyLEAGUE, into a season, etc. So there are millions of people who are interested, probably overall, in updated rosters and in franchise gaming, especially if the mode accommodates, customization and a fun gaming experience. And I have my knocks on NBA 2K22 gameplay wise. I have my knocks on 2K18, 19, 20, 21, etc. But one thing you can't say is that they're limited customization wise in MyLEAGUE. So I like that comment that gentleman made. From relocating your team to creating jerseys to creating your own court and using logos either that are in the game by default or ones that you can download from the community, changing your team name, all of that stuff. It almost feels limitless, the amount of customization in MyLEAGUE or my NBA. So good job for 2K on that.
And Chuck, at ChuckLA92, says franchise and online head-to-head. So once again, more support for those modes as well. And you and I have played some online head-to-head quite a lot, obviously, with Parsec, and sometimes through the servers as well. And this is where Parsec really shines, because it can outshine the official servers. And Chaz Carter at Sotico, me and my boys spend 97% of our time modding and 3% running sims. Simming through a franchise mode is also a lot of fun. At Daniel_MP92 is another MyCAREER player, because Brazil has its own server now, apparently. So, and also playing exhibition games with modded rosters. But here's the interesting one, Derek. B for 3, as opposed to D for 3, at B for 3 on Twitter. All of the above, as you threw out those examples, says all of the above, switching permanently. So tasting a bit of everything, and I like that too.
Yeah, B for 3 needs to be canceled, because that's too close to D for 3. But no, I want to touch, before I touch on that, actually, I want to touch on the simming aspect. There are actually a lot of people out there who like to mod or edit rosters and then only watch computer versus computer games, or just sim through seasons just to see how the stats turn out and everything. There's a gentleman on the NLSC who's in the NBA 2K22 videos section, and he is constantly posting CPU versus CPU gameplay. He loves it. He watches the full games and he uploads the full games to YouTube, etc. There's also a gentleman who, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he still weekly posts NBA Live 06 computer versus computer games on YouTube, just constantly posting videos. It's not something that I've ever been able to get into. It's not really fun for me to watch the computer just play against the computer, but there's a lot of people out there that do that. As far as B for 3, he makes a point, and I think that I wish more people were flexible like that, right? Because if something got boring to them, so let's say they got bored with MyCAREER, maybe they could jump into my team, and then if my team got boring to them, maybe they could jump in and do a MyLEAGUE. And then if MyLEAGUE got boring to them, maybe they did some roster editing and played some exhibition games. So being flexible and being well-rounded as a basketball gamer definitely has its perks.
Oh, I totally agree, because there's often more than you can really, one person can experience in a single year with games. I mean, if you're spending all that time with my team, it's very hard to then spend that time in MyCAREER, but some people can go back and forth and enjoy it for what it is. Maybe they don't finish it. Maybe they don't go for 100% completion, but still have a blast playing a bit of everything every year. And I think that's fantastic. And it's great that we have all these different modes that we can switch back and forth between. This is why I advocate for deep modes. Yes, gameplay is paramount, but if you don't have those deep modes, and a few different ones to appeal to everybody, or indeed someone like B4 who can go back and forth between all of them and enjoy all of what they have to offer, your game is much weaker for not having those engaging experiences on top of solid, enjoyable gameplay. So that's why it's so important. But I do love hearing about that, and it just goes to show, I mean, not a lot of people talking about online in the responses we got, which perhaps, I guess, reflects some of what our followers are playing, and we kind of have those similar tastes in that regard. But a lot of people playing online, of course, and I've played online before and enjoyed that in better days, as I said. But if there's something to take away from it, there is no wrong way to enjoy basketball video games. It's important to have all these different experiences and to just make the most of them. And you can have so much fun, playing virtual basketball on the virtual hardwood in a variety of different ways. And there's no reason to shame each other for these choices or to point and laugh. As long as you're having fun with basketball games, that's the important thing. And somebody else enjoying a different mode does not reflect poorly on your choice. We all choose the mode we want to play, what appeals to us. Don't worry about that. Always advocate for your fellow gamers and so that everybody's modes can be as good as possible. But yeah, stop this elitism and this gatekeeping about basketball gaming. If you're playing a basketball game and enjoying that mode, that's what matters at the end of the day. And we also got a couple of responses from the NLSC Discord. Tecmobol GGL, who has taken part in our tournaments, of course. Franchise mode using classic rosters, head-to-head on Parsec, which we're big fans of. And Per DXDO, used to exclusively play MyCAREER when I first started playing 2K, but now it's just association mode rebuilds and Parsec head-to-head. So yeah, Parsec being a blast that more and more people are getting into, which is great to see. And people going back between MyCAREER and association or franchise modes. Yeah. Fantastic. I love the depth there.
Yeah, I like that Tecmobile is starting MyLEAGUEs with classic teams. That's definitely something that my brothers and I do. And we also mod the classic teams and add new classic teams if we like the game, and then, throw those into a MyLEAGUE as well. So, us and Tecmobile definitely have that in common. And yeah, the Parsec head-to-head for both of them. I've connected with both of them multiple times, and they're both really fun to have sessions with on various games, sim or arcade, and there'll be a lot more in the future.
But thank you to everybody who sent in their responses to this week's question. As you said, Derek, so many responses straight out of the gate. A lot of people love talking about playing basketball video games. That's what we're here to do every week on the NLSC podcast. So yeah, thank you for sharing those experiences with us, and we can certainly relate to a lot of them, can we not?
Oh, no, absolutely. No, thank you for all the responses. I'll be putting out another mailbag next Friday, more than likely. And yeah, thank you for always engaging with the show and listening to the show.
But with that being said, that has brought us to the end of episode number 424 of the NLSC podcast. We thank you for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, as we did. The show comes out every Sunday on the NLSC, which is me-live.com, of course. You can also find the show on all the podcatching apps and platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. On those platforms, search for NLSC Podcast, look for our logo, and that will be us. Or, of course, you can tune in on our YouTube channel. And we'd also love to connect with you on social media. So, Derek, I'll throw it over to you to promote your handles.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at D4384 or D43G. Also on YouTube, D43, and on the NLSC, D43. Not B4 3, D4
I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC itself is on Twitter and Facebook at the NLSC. We're also on Instagram, NLSC Basketball. Our aforementioned YouTube channel is youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, NBA-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. But yes, that's all for this week. So thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.